Watch this, if your pushes keep sailing long, your upper arm is betraying you. One simple forearm fix changes everything. Here's a problem I see all the time. Your push sails long off the end of the table, and you can't figure out why. The answer is almost always the upper arm. When you're dealing with a short ball or a half-long ball, anything that stays close to the table, your upper arm has no business driving forward. If you shove the whole arm out to reach the ball, you're adding force you can't control, and the ball flies past the baseline. Watch my arm here. The upper arm stays quiet. It holds position, that's all. The forearm does the work. The ball goes long because the upper arm joined in. That's the number one reason your push flies off the end when you add force. So here's the first key point. If you want a faster push, the main power source is the forearm. The upper arm's job is control, it stays relatively still. The forearm accelerates through the ball. Watch here, see how my upper arm barely moves? The forearm extends forward on its own. Now watch what happens when I let the upper arm push forward too. The ball becomes uncontrollable. Keep them separate. Forearm accelerates, upper arm stabilizes. You won't eliminate every error, but the odds of sailing long drop dramatically. There's actually no friction involved here. Now, so the third way to speed up your push is this. Now let's talk about how to push with more spin. Spin is the biggest weapon against amateur players, and the secret to generating it on a push lies in your fingers. Finger force is the most important element in every spinning technique. So here's a question I want you to think about. Do you squeeze the handle at the moment of contact, or do you squeeze after you've already finished the stroke? Do you grip tight right at the moment of contact, or do you finish the stroke and then tight? Think about that carefully. Let me first show you the technique for adding spin to your push. Watch these two pushes, one like this and one like this. Which one do you think produces more spin? Most of you would say the second one, and you'd be right. Here's the principle. Anytime the ball has curvature and you apply friction along that curve, you can generate spin. Watch, this motion doesn't produce much. This one doesn't either. But this one, see the difference? That's where the spin comes from. It's the same idea on a serve. This motion won't generate much spin, but this one will. And this is exactly how it works on a push. Watch, I cut downward through the lower middle part of the ball, slicing under it. Then after that initial cut, I add a sideways brushing motion. See the difference? The ball picks up even more rotation. I'm essentially cutting down first, then grazing around toward the bottom of the ball for extra spin. That combination definitely adds more spin. Now, if I try to reach the very bottom of the ball with a straight downward angle, the only way I can get there is by scooping under like this. And watch what happens. The ball pops up high. A high push is asking to get attacked. So instead, I cut down first through the middle lower part, then redirect sideways to brush the bottom. Watch the result. The ball comes off spinning, it floats and curves, and it stays low. That sideways finish also catches the underside of the ball, which prevents me from dumping it into the net. Watch the rhythm, cut, then tail 1, 2. There's always that follow-through at the end. Now my partner sends me a heavy backspin ball. If I just cut straight down, watch, it dumps right into the net. I want to cut it and still clear the net, so I have to catch a little bit of the bottom on the way through. That gives you arc, and arc means consistency. At the same time, the ball floats over with real drift. It genuinely wobbles on the way across. If you only cut straight down, you might get more spin, but you lose control of the arc and you'll clip the net constantly. Now, this works the same way with a penhold grip. You can use that downward cut to maintain ball speed. Watch, my partner feeds me one. When I only slice straight down, the ball travels fast. But the moment there's any real spin on the incoming ball, I dump it into the net every time. So what do I do? After that cut, the ball comes over strange, it drifts and wobbles with side spin, and it's genuinely hard for your opponent to loop. So how do you produce that kind of push? Let me explain. You must build this into a habit. Use the racket head to push. Racket head contact gives you both spin and stability. The first step is cutting downward, that's your foundation, because it keeps the ball fast. But after the downward cut, look at where the racket head finishes. You want the racket head pointing toward the table at the end. Watch the rhythm. 1, 2. 1, 2. That follow through works the same with a shake hand grip. Watch as my partner feeds me a ball. I cut down first, then the racket head swings through and points at the table. That finishing direction is the whole secret. When I first taught this, the student struggled for a long time. Then I told him, after you push, just point your racket head at the table. Instantly, his push started biting. Watch the ball, see how my racket head finishes aimed right at the table surface. After that, the same principle applies with a penhold grip. Let me show you clearly. If I stop the racket right here after the cut, that's wrong, the stroke is incomplete. Instead, watch, racket head points at the table. Racket head points at the table. Every single time, follow through until the racket head aims at the table surface. Now watch when I link it all together in one fluid motion, feel how much heavier the spin gets. That finishing direction is what loads the ball with rotation. Now let me add some finger pressure and really commit. Watch this push, it's genuinely heavy. My opponent can barely lift it. Now I'll try a long push with the same idea. See, still difficult to attack. But when I add that tail flick at the end, the ball bites even harder. I can feel the extra spin leaving my racket. The first bounce kicks sideways on my own side of the table, that's how you know it's loaded.